Okay. Number 2, file names and folders. What's wrong with them? Well, nothing and a lot. Have you ever sat down and thought like how you're gonna name a file, or which folder structure to come up with for, I don't know, storing your images, videos, audio files, any other data, construction plans, documents, anything. It works, right? You can just like rename something, drag, drop, shift, control, copy, whatever, files, folders around. Works. Doesn't matter that much which operating system or which file manager. Yeah, that's actually cool about this. And it goes back to the 70s. File and folder names. It's a very old concept, quite robust. And it's the only thing today still that is the common denominator of any application, any system. Like that's something that all computing devices kind of have to agree upon, because if they don't, nothing will work, pretty much. It's like, regardless which operating system, which application, or whatever, whatever anyone's trying to do, whatever application someone's writing, they have basic functions for reading, writing a file, giving a file name, and defining a folder structure to put it in, if access permissions allow. But that's something else. That's details we'll get into later. So, file and folder names. What is this? That's the file system. Ever wondered what happens when it's like you take that SD card from a digital camera or your smartphone or whatever, and you put it on a machine, and then it either goes like, I show you folders and file names, and it works, or it doesn't work. Like, you take that hard drive that was formatted on a Mac and put it on a Windows machine, and then Windows goes like and says, I have no clue what you're trying to tell me. This disk is probably broken or non-formatted. I can erase everything for you. I can format it. Well, that's the operating system trying to tell you that it doesn't bother to understand other file systems than the one it's interested in. So what is a file system? A file system is the thing that where machine and humans meet and go like, that's the thing we're talking about. We call it a file. Can I see this? Can I write this? Can I edit this? And I give it a name so I can, as a person, like, yeah, that's what I mean. And because without folders, we'll just drown in files. We'll just go crazy. And like, okay, there's a structure of folders. That was a pretty neat concept. I mean, it's been holding for like 50 years now. And in computing, that's, wow, kudos. And I think it has reached its limits. Now, file names and folder names. What if you could still give a file name, and you could still put it in the folder? And what if that would not be a technical handle anymore? It'll just be a metadata field. And you can have more than one. So you could have like, let's call them objects now. You have an object, and that object, you like have your file, and that file had a name. And so your object goes like, file name this, and it had a folder name, it came from folder name this. This is a string of text of characters, file name. And now that object system just treats it like a metadata field and says, well, yeah, this is not a technical handle anymore, so please feel free and put all kinds of characters in there. Well, we'll see about limitations, but technically you could actually just put full text in there if you're completely crazy, or not. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Now this is just metadata. And there's no collision of interests between the machine needing clean file names, no spaces, please just alphanumeric characters to be on the safe side. Now it'll be like, that's Unicode. That's a text field. Please use it. And you go like, okay, but the object, the folder structure, I'm gonna move my objects now somewhere else, or I want to have a folder structure where I can copy my photo collection, for example, by events or by names or like people or things on it. But at the same time, I'd also like to see it like year, month, something like that, because sometimes I don't know, it was back in 2014, but I don't exactly remember which event. So kind of get it by date and so on. And now imagine that you have multiple file names with one object, and you have a flag that goes like, that's a preferred file name. That's the one that's shown to you first if you haven't selected any other one. Or that folder name. Or you can have multiple folder names for the same thing. So you can basically imagine that you've got your objects now, and there is no more folder structure. There is no separation in folders. It's just a different way of tagging things. And you can basically decide to view your object pool like a folder file name structure that you're accustomed to, where it often also makes sense. But now you can just go like, oh yeah, show me like this, and your object will just be in that tree and in that tree, because it's in no position. This is just viewing metadata and structuring your access to data by these tags that we call file and folder names. And you're like, okay, so yeah, you can now keep the file name that thing had from the camera that produced it or the application that recorded it. Just go like, yeah, keep that as original file name, and I'll just give it my own. And if that file travels, it can basically accumulate file names if people would like to, and there'd be no conflict. There'd be no like, shall I name it like this or that? Well, just give it a second file name. It'll be something to search it by and find it by. Same with folders. Well, I have my system, you have yours. If we merge this, combine this, and our files travel, it'll have the history of its folder positions if you want to keep this on a file system level. You'll be like, oh, okay. Of course, this will have to be your file manager application will need to handle this accordingly. Yet these things already exist and they are already implemented, but not in a common ground, not on a common ground level, not on the file system level. But that's where we are in this suggestion. Well, let's move on. It'll be good.